Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are still looking at exponents. And today we're going to look at some special cases when it comes to exponents and what to do with them. We're going to look at what happens when you have negative exponents and exponents that are the number 0. So let's take a look at the rules. So on this slide of our notes is our rules whenever we are solving these two special kinds of exponents. So if you're doing your homework and you get stuck and you need a quick recap of what the rules are, go back to the video and come to this part of it and check out what you need to know so you can continue on with your homework. Let's take a look at our first example then. 0 exponents. This says for any non-zero number, a to the 0 power equals 1. So no matter what my base is, if it's greater than 0, the base could be 2, the base could be 5, the base could be 100. If it was 2 to the 0 power, or 5 to the 0 power, or 100 to the 0 power, it's still going to equal 1. So 1 is going to be the value anytime you see an exponent with 0 as the power. For negative exponents, this is where it gets a little trickier and tougher for students. It says for any integer that is a non-zero number, negative a to the negative n is the reciprocal is a new word for us this year, reciprocal of a to the n. When you have a reciprocal, it means you're going to flip that number. And usually we talk reciprocals with fractions. Well, whole numbers can be written as a fraction also. So we have the whole number 4 here, but the whole number 4, technically as a fraction, is written as 4 over 1, because 4 divided by 1 is 4. So to write this as the reciprocal of 4 to the negative 2, we take the reciprocal and we flip it, so we're going to put a 1 up at the top. So that makes this 1 over 4 to the second power. And notice that since it says negative second power here, since we made it the reciprocal, that makes it the positive power here on the bottom. So right now we've written it as 1 over 4 squared. Now if we wanted to evaluate, if it's asking you to evaluate this, evaluate means solve. So we can still solve this. So 1 divided by 4 to the second power, we're going to keep that 1 up in the numerator, but we can solve this exponent, 4 squared. What is 4 squared? Well, that's 4 times 4, so it's 16. So our original 4 to the negative second power ends up being, when we evaluate the fraction, 1/16. So let's go through some more examples of this. So we have a negative exponent here. So we have 3 to the negative 4th power. And again, we can write that with a 1 underneath because technically a whole number can be written as a fraction with a 1 underneath of it. And our reciprocal means we flip them. So we flip 3 over 1 to be 1 over 3. When we do our reciprocal, we no longer have our negative exponent, it's now a positive exponent. Now here it said evaluate. Evaluate means solve. So we're going to solve as much of this as we can and get a number. So we're going to evaluate. We leave that 1 up at the top because there's nothing to do with it. But we can do 3 to the 4th power. 3 to the 4th power is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And that multiplied out does give us 81. So that 3 to the negative 4th power gives us the fraction 1 over 81. Now, in this next example, we're combining what we did in yesterday's lesson where we were dividing exponents, and we're combining it now with negative exponents. So it adds more steps into what you need to do to solve this problem. So we're going to start out here. We have 2 to the 6th divided by 2 to the 8th. So we have the same base. Our base is 2. Now since we have the same base and both our numerator and denominator have exponents, we're going to subtract those exponents. So we're subtracting 6 minus 8. 6 minus 8, you go back to our rules of integers, 6 minus 8 gives you negative 2. So now I have an exponent that has a negative in it. And I need to use our rule that we just used to solve for that negative exponent. I need to find its reciprocal. So 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So I'm going to flip that and make it 1 over 2. And since I flipped it and made it my reciprocal, this negative exponent becomes a positive exponent. So that would be a 1 divided by 2 to the second power. Now it's still asking us to evaluate. Evaluate means solve. So we can solve that bottom exponent, 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. So we've taken that original exponent fraction and used the powers property for quotients, subtracted the 2 exponents, got our negative exponent, made our reciprocal, in which we flipped it, and we made that a positive, and then we solved that bottom exponent to get 1/4. So a few more examples. We'll start simple. We have 4 to the negative second. Well, I need to write that as a reciprocal. So 1 to the 4th, and then make that negative a positive squared. Solve it because it's asking us to evaluate. 4 times 4, that's 4 squared, is 16. So 1/16 is our answer there. So let's look. Actually, I want to do number 3 because it's going to be interesting for us. Let's look at number 3 here. Because it multiplies. So we're going to have to go back to our product of powers property. And since we're multiplying, we have the same base. We're going to use the same base. But since we're multiplying, we add the exponents. Negative 8, positive 8, that equals 0. So now we have, for this number 3, 6 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is just 1. And then one more here. We have negative 3 to the 5th divided by negative 3 to the 6th. So the quotients property for exponents means we're going to subtract these. We keep our same base. 5 minus 6, that gives us a negative 1. That didn't work out well. That gives us a negative 1. And so we've got to, there we go, that's a better negative 1. So negative 3 to the negative 1. So now we've got to find our reciprocal. So I put the 1 there. That means it's going to be 1 over negative 3. Since that's a negative first, it's a positive first. And negative 3 to the first power is just negative 3. So 1 over negative 3 is our answer. So at this point, we've gone through our examples for solving exponents where 0 is the exponent, they equal 1, and solving negative exponents in which we have to flip it with its reciprocal, and then we can evaluate the denominator from there. Go ahead and complete your homework. If you have any questions, I would suggest rewatching this video first, and then if you still have questions, please reach out to me, and I will gladly try to help you out with this as best as I am able. So go ahead and work on your homework, and we'll see you next time.